Code Explained is hi. Today we're going to build a shopping cart using JavaScript. So I'm going to show you now what we're going to build at the end of this tutorial. So I have here some products and I can add these products to my cart or to the cart using this button here. So if I click on this one, now this t-shirt number 1 is added to the cart. I can also click on this again to increment the number of units, as you can see here. And I can also decrement the number of units and increment the number of units using these two buttons here. Now you can see that when I increment the number of units here, I have 8 units. So the subtotal here, the number of items in the cart is 8 items, and also the total price. I can also add as many products as you want. I can still add or increment the number of units for each product. If I hover over one of the products here, I can click and remove that from the cart, as you can see here. And also, if I have, for example, this t-shirt in my cart, and then I want, for example, 6 units of this, now I can just get 5 units of this t-shirt. Why? I can't increment this anymore. Why? Because I only have 5 t-shirts in stock. So I can't get more than 5 t-shirts. And now you can also see that in front of the cart here it says 5 because I have 5 items in the cart. And now if I go and refresh the page, you can still see the items or the products in my cart. So everything is saved in the local storage. So without further ado, let's go and build our shopping cart. Well, before we start, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell and select all to get all the notifications. That's how you're going to know about every new video I upload, and that's how you're going to encourage me to make more of these videos. Well, now you need to go and download the starter template. That's where you're going to find all the files we're going to need to build our shopping cart using JavaScript. So we need to click on the link in the description and go and download this as a zip. So I'm going to go and save this to the desktop. And now that this has been downloaded, I'm going to go and open the zip file, and I'm going to go and extract the starter template. So the starter template is where the files we need to start building our shopping cart are, and the shopping cart here is the final project. Okay, I'm just gonna go and rename this to shopping cart. Now I'm gonna go and open this using my text editor. So I'm gonna go and open folder and then open the folder in the desktop. So here I'm gonna show you all the files. So we have here the icons we have used in this project, the images for our products, and also we have our app.js. So this is where we're going to work in this tutorial. For the HTML, we have all the code already typed in, so we're not going to talk about any HTML in this tutorial. This is a JavaScript tutorial. For products.js, I need you to focus here. So products is an array of objects, and each object here is a product. So we have here t-shirt 1, t-shirt 2, 3, etc. So every object here is a product, and each product has these properties: an ID, a name, price, in stock, how many we have in stock, a description, and the image source of the product. So this is the second product, third product, 4, 5, and 6. So we have only 6 products. Now I need you to think about these constant products as something we get from a database. Alright, now if I go to style.css, here, all the CSS code is already typed in, like HTML. So we're not going to talk about any CSS in this tutorial. Again, this is a JavaScript tutorial. Now, all the work will be done in our app.js. So now that you know everything about our files, let's move on to the next step. I'm going to show you now a live preview of our project. So I'm going to go live. So this is the home page. If I click on this arrow, I'm going to go to the products. So this is where my products will be rendered, and this is the cart. So if I click on these buttons here, nothing's happening because we didn't implement any JavaScript yet. So let's go and do that. So I'm going to go to my text editor. I'm going to go to my index.html. If I scroll down, I will find here a div with the class name products, and it says render products here. So this is the area we will render the products, and this is where in HTML we're gonna render those products. So this is one item. So this is the HTML code for a single product, this product here. So if I go and duplicate this 2 times and I go and take a look, I will have now 2 products here, which means whenever you need to render a product, you need to use this HTML code. So this is like a template. So I'm just going to go and cut this so I can use it later on. So I'm going to go now to the products.js. So I'm going to show you this one more time. So products array has elements, they are objects, and each object here is a single product. It has a name, price, description, image source, in stock, and a unique ID. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back to the index.html and go to the bottom here, and I need to link my files, my script files or my JavaScript files. The first one we need to link is our script products.js. And then the second one is our script app.js. Be careful here to link the products.js first, then the app.js, because that's how we can be able to access the products array from our app.js file. Alright, now I'm going to go to app.js, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go and select this div here. And then using JavaScript, I'm going to render the products from here into this area here using my HTML template I cut before. So I'm going to go to app.js, then I'm going to add a comment to say select elements. I'm going to create a constant called product element. I'm going to set it equal to document.query selector. And then it's gonna be products. So products, and hit save. And now I'm gonna go and create a function to render the products. So I'm gonna create a function render products. And now because products now is a global variable, I can access my products from within this function here. So I can just say products and I can access that array. Now because this is an array, we need to loop over this elements. So we can use a for loop or we can use a for each. I'm gonna go for a for each method. It takes in a callback function, and the first argument here for this function, it's going to be the elements in my array products. So I'm just going to call this product because each element here is representing a product. So if I hover over this now, you can see that it says it's an object. It has an ID, a name, a price, and stock, description, image source. These are the properties I need to render my products to the user interface. So I'm going to go now and use the products element I selected, this div here, and change its inner HTML. I'm gonna use a plus equals sign here because I don't want to override the products element inner HTML. I want to keep the last rendered product, and then I'm gonna use here a backtick a literal expression, so I can use a multiplying string. So I'm just gonna now paste in the HTML template for a single item or product. Now if I hit save now, and I'm gonna call or invoke the function render products, so to run this code here, if I go to my page, you can see now that we have 6 products here all rendered, but they all the same because we didn't change this HTML code. Now what we need to do is we need to change this. So for example, here in the image source, we need to use the image source of our product. So I'm gonna use a $, then some curly braces, and now I can put a variable here. So I'm gonna say product dot image source. If I hit save now and I go back to my page, you can see that the images are now changed. We still need to change the titles and the prices and the descriptions also. So I'm gonna change the alt for the image. So it's gonna be a $sign again, then some color braces, then product, and then it's gonna be the name. I'm just gonna go and copy this to save some time. So t-shirt, it's gonna be here the name of the product. Here it's gonna be the price, and then here it's gonna be the description, and then that's it. So that's all we need. So if I go back now to the page, you can see that they all have been changed. So now we have rendered all the products, all of our products. Now the next thing is when I click on this buttons here, nothing's happening now, but the next thing is when I click on this, I want to add this product to the cart. Now you can say that we need to add event listeners here, but I have a better way. So when I render the products in the dev here, so this says dev for this button here, what I'm going to do is I'm gonna go here and add an unclick event. So instead of adding an event listener, I'm gonna add an unclick event because that's the easiest way to do it. So I'm gonna call a function I didn't create yet called add to cart. And now this function here, when I click on this button here, when I click on this button here, I will call that function add to cart, and that function needs to know what is the product it will add to the cart. So in that case, to know the exact product to add to the cart, we need to pass in the product.id, because each product here has a unique ID. So that's how we know the products, using their IDs. So now if I go here to the app.js, and then I'm gonna go and create the function, my function add to cart. So this function here takes in an ID, and now I'm just gonna go for now and console log.id. So if I go back to my page here and I'm gonna go and open the console, if I click now in here, you can see it says 0, the ID of the product. All right, now it's gonna be 5, 4, and then 3. Now that's it for rendering our products. Now it's time to go and talk about the code inside our add to cart. Well, now when I click on this button here, I'm gonna go and add this product to the cart. Alright, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to save that first, that product, which means this whole object. I'm gonna save this whole object in a new array called cart. So products is where all the products are, is what we get from the database, for example. But now when I click on the add to cart button, I'm gonna add this object here, which represent our product, into a new array called cart. So I'm gonna go here and create that array. So cart array to save all my items added to the cart. So I'm gonna say let cart equals an empty array. All right, and now in here what I'm going to do is save that product object, this object here, to the cart. Of course we have many objects, but we need to save the right one using its ID, which means I need first to find the product inside my products array and then save it or push it to the cart. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to go and say products array dot find. So I will need to find that item or the product that verifies this condition. The condition is simple. It's going to be product.id equals the same ID here, the one the user clicked on. All right, so I'm just going to go and use let or const. This is an object. So const, let's call this item equals products and then console.log the item. All right, so if I save now and go to the console here and go to the console, now if I click on this one, this will console log that item I clicked on, the one I found using find method. All right, so if I click on this, now you can see that we have got an object. Its name is t-shirt one, which is this one here. The price and stock, the image source, the ID, description, all the properties are there. Now we need to save them in our new array, which is cart. So I'm just going to go and say cart dot push, and I'm going to push the item to the cart. Now if I go and console.log the cart array, if I save this, if I go back here, then click on this one, and you can see now that we have two products, t-shirt 1 and t-shirt 2, and that's great. But if I click on this one here and check again, you can see we have t-shirt 1 and again we have t-shirt 1 here, which is not what we want here. So we need first to check if the product already exists in our cart. So for that I'm going to use an if statement, and I'm going to add a comment here. So check if product already exists in cart. So I'm going to use an if statement, and I'm going to use cart.sum. So I'm going to check if one of the elements inside my array, it has the same ID here. So if some item in my cart, if some one of the items in my cart has the same ID as this one here, this means that the product I want to add already exists in the cart. So in that case, for now, I'm just gonna alert product already in cart. All right, else if it's not, in that case, I'm just gonna go and copy this whole code and paste it in here, and that's good. So now let's go back to our page and check. So if I click on this one here, you can see now it's in our array. That's good. If I click back on it, it says product already in cart. That's good. So what I'm going to do here is you can see here we have the number of units. All right, this number of units is a new property that will be added to the product object when I add it to the cart. So here, instead of just pushing the item or the product with all these properties, we're going to add a new one called number of units, and we're going to set it to 1. All right, so I'm just going to copy this. I'm not going to add it here. This is something we get from the database. We won't touch it at all. So if I go here to app.js, so instead of pushing the item with the old properties, now I'm going to push an object, okay, our product, and I'm gonna destructure the item. So now I'm just gonna save all the old properties of our product, and also I'm gonna add a new property called number of units, which is set to 1. Okay, now let's save and let's go back to our page. If I open the console and if I click on this one here, if I click back on it, it says product already in cart. And if I check my array, and it has one product, and we can see here that we have a new property called number of units, which is set to 1, which is this one here. All right. Now later on, when I click on this plus, we need to change this to 2, increment this number here. If I click on this here, we need to decrement this number here. And also if I click on this one here, I don't want to show product already in cart. Instead, I need to increment this number here. That's good. All right, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and remove this console log, and then I'm going to go here and update cart, a new function to update the cart. So when I click on this one here, I want to update the cart. I want to add the product I clicked on. I also need to update this number here, and I also need to update the subtotal. So all this work will be done using a function called update cart. So let's move on to the next step and talk about the update cart. Alright, so our update cart will go and cart update function update cart. So this function here will go and render cart items, okay, and also it will go and render the subtotal. Alright, so this is 2 things it will do. So it will update this cart here, the items. It will also go and update the subtotal. So let's now talk about just rendering the cart items. I'm just gonna comment out this. Alright, let's go and create the function render cart items. So function render cart items. So this function here will do the same thing render products did. Of course, I'm gonna go and use a for each method on my cart array. And then I'm gonna change the inner HTML of this div here. So this is where it says render cart items here. So we're going to like select this element first. So I'm gonna go to the top, and then I'm just gonna go and duplicate this. So this will be cart items element, and this will be our cart items class name. So cart items element. So I'm gonna go and change the cart items element dot inner HTML plus equal and then some backticks. Alright, now if I go to index HTML, this is the template for a single cart item. I'm just gonna go and cart this. Alright, save. Now you can see that my cart is empty. So now I'm gonna render the cart items here from my cart array. So I'm just gonna go and paste in this. I'm gonna add some indentation here. Okay, I'm just gonna remove that from here. So now the source, it's going to be, of course, this item here. I'm gonna call this item. So each item in cart, I'm gonna go and render the item dot image source. I'm gonna copy this. For the alternative of the image is gonna be the name, just like before. And for the t-shirt name or the product name, it's going to be item name. For the price, it's going to be the item, then price. And here it's going to be the item dot number of units, and we're good. So now if I go back to the page, if I click on this, now you can see it there. If I go and click on this, see what's going to happen. You can see that now the t-shirt one is duplicated. So what's happening here is that when I call this for each method, I will not override what's already in the cart items element, because I'm using here a plus equals sign. So it will add the new elements or the new products on top of the old ones. So to fix this, I'm just going to go and clear our cart items inner HTML before adding anything to it. So I'm just going to add here clear cart element. Alright, so that's it. Now if I go back here, now if I go and add this one, you can see that it's not duplicated anymore. Alright, so if I still click on this one, I still see the product already in cart. That's great. Now the second or the next thing is going to be changing the number of units. So now if I click on this one here, nothing's happening. This one here, nothing's happening. So you may think that we need to add an event listener to these, but we're not. We're just going to stick again with the onClick event. So here in the minus button, I'm just going to add an onClick event, that will call a function that I didn't create yet. This function, I'm going to call it change number of units. Alright, we'll call the change number of units because we're changing the number of units here. So I'm going to call the same function when I click on the plus button here, change number of units. And this function here will need two things, the action. So I'm going to use here single quotes, be careful, because I've used double quotes. Here I need to use single quotes. So it's going to be minus, and here I'm going to need to put in the item ID. So that's how my function change number of units will know what's the item. It will like decrement its number of units. And in here, I'm going to use single quotes again, then plus, and then it's going to be also the ID of the item. So I'm going to go here and create that function, change number of units for an item. So the function is going to be called, so for the function name, it's going to be change number of units, and I'm going to use parentheses. So this will take in two parameters. The first one is going to be the action. It could be minus or plus, and then the second one is going to be the ID of the item I want to change. Alright, so now let's move on to the next step and talk about the code for our change number units function. Well, now when I click on the plus or the minus buttons here, I will go and change the number of units, and I will need to go actually into the array cart and then look for the product or the item that has the same ID here, and then change its number of units based on the action here. If it's minus, I'm going to decrement the number of units. If it's plus, I'm going to increment the number of units of that product or of that item in the cart. So doing this using an old way, it's going to be a pain, and that's why I'm going to use the map method. So I'm going to use map. Map is used on arrays, so in our case it's going to be the cart array. The map method here takes in a function, a callback function. So the map method here will run this function on every element in my cart, and at the end it will return a new array, a new updated array. So that update array will be our updated cart, which is just our cart array. Alright, so I'm going to save the old cart array in my cart array, and I can now use this as the new updated cart. So this map here, or the callback function, takes in the parameter which is going to be our item, the items inside my cart. If I say return item now, this will do no changes to the items in the cart. So it will just get the item, return the item, and this will make no changes to the items in the cart. But in our case, when the user clicks on minus on plus, we need to change the number of units of the item and then return it. Okay, so I'm gonna go here and check if the item.id equals the ID. So that's how I know the item I want to change, because my cart, maybe it will have 10 items. I want to change just to one item the user has clicked on, not all the 9 items. So if the item.id equals ID, I want to do the change. If it's not, I'm just going to return the item. Alright, so here I'm going to go and get the old number of units using item.number of units. Then inside here, if the action is minus, I'm gonna go and decrement this by 1. Else, if the action is plus, I'm gonna go and change this or increment this by 1. Alright, now I have made the change, but I can't see it here because I'm just returning the item. What I'm going to do is I'm gonna go and return an object, and then with the item destructured. The same thing here as before, I'm just returning the item. I'm not changing the old number or the number of units of that item. So I'm gonna go now and change the number of units to old number of units. Now, think about it like this. If the old number of units is changed, then it's gonna be changed. If it's not, then it's gonna be the same as before. So now I'm just gonna go get rid of this old number. I don't like it. I'm just gonna call this number of units. So now here I'm just gonna say number of units. And now because I have the name of the property is the same as the name of the value, I can just go and use the name of the property. So now this one here, it's gonna be the same as this one here. Now, after I have changed the cart array, I need to update the cart. So to see the changes in the user interface. Now, if I go back to my page, if I click on this here, if I click on the plus, you can see that I can increment the number of units. If I click on minus, you can see that I can buy -5 t-shirts, which doesn't make any sense. Also, if I go here to products and I go to t-shirt number 4, you can see here we have in stock just 5. And if I go here and add this to the cart, and if I try to buy more than 5 t-shirts, I can't, which is not right. So I'm gonna go and fix this. I'm gonna go to the change number of units function again. So here I want to decrement the number of units only if the number of units is greater than 1. So if it's 2, I want to decrement it. 3, I want to decrement it. But if it's 1, I won't decrement the number of units. The same thing here. I want to increment the number of units only if the number of units is less than the item.inStock number. Alright, let's now check this. So if I go and add this to the cart, if I click on minus, you can see I can't decrement this. If I click on plus, you can see I can't increment this, but I can't go beyond 5. That's good. Now when I click on this here, I don't want to say or to alert product already in cart. I want to actually increment the number of units here. So it's simple. I just need to go to my add to cart function instead of alerting here. I'm just going to go and call my function change number of units. The action is going to be plus, and then it's going to be the ID here. The ID I want to add again to the cart. So I'm gonna save this. I'm gonna go back here. So if I click on this one here, the add to cart button, if I click again on it, you can see that I can increment it. After 5, I can't add any more units, and that's good. And now the next thing we're going to do is updating the subtotal. And now it's time to render the subtotal. So we need to calculate the number of items and the total price. So we have this items. What I want to do here to calculate the number of items, I need to go for each item in the cart, and then I want to calculate the sum of the units in the cart. And then to calculate the total price, I need to go through all the elements in all the items in the cart and then multiply the unit price by the number of units for each item and then calculate the sum of them. So let's go back to app.js. I'm going to go to update cart. If you remember, we have commented the render subtotal function. Now I uncommented it, and I'm going to go and add a comment that says calculate and render subtotal. So I'm going to go and create that function, render subtotal. Now I'm going to go and create 2 variables. One is going to be called total price for total price, and the other one is going to be total items. Okay, just leave it that way, total items. I'm going to set both of them to 0, total price and the total items. So I'm going to go and use a forEach method on my cart, and then for each item, what I'm going to do to calculate the total price, I'm going to use a plus equal sign. I'm going to go and calculate the sum of each item that price times each the item that number of units. And then for the total items, it's going to be just the item that number of units. And I'm good. Now I need to go and render this. So I'm going to go to in the index.html file. So if I go here, I have a dev with the subtotal class name and this message here. So I'm just going to copy this. I will remember the class name subtotal because I need to select that. So I'm just going to call this subtotal to select that element. The same thing here is going to be subtotal. And now I'm going to go to the bottom here and change the subtotal element dot inner HTML to some backticks and then paste in the text here. So for the number of items, I'm going to use a $, then it's going to be my total items variable. Here for the 0, so this dollar here is for the currency, and this one here to put in this variable total price. And now if I hit save and I go back here, if I refresh, then add this one here, you can see we have one item and then £29.99, which is the unit price times 1. If I add another one, now it's multiplied by 2. If I keep adding this, you can see we have here many numbers after the dot. So we need to fix this just to 2 numbers after this dot. So what I'm going to do here, the total price, I'm going to use a method called toFixed. So toFixed, and I need to fix this to 2 numbers after the dot. If I hit save, go back here. If I add this one again, if I increment the number of units, you can see that we get just 2 numbers after the dot. That's good. We still need to like update this too. So I'm just gonna go and inspect this to know the class name. So it's gonna be total items in cart. I'm just gonna copy that. And here, I'm just gonna go back to the top and select that element. I'm gonna call this total items in cart, a bad name. I'm gonna go back here to the render subtotal, and I'm gonna go and say total items in cart dot inner HTML is gonna be set equal to the total items. So if I hit save and go back to the page, now if I add this to the cart, you can see now it says 1 in cart, 2, etc. Alright, now the next thing is when I hover over this item, I can click on it and remove the item. So the next step is going to be removing an item from the cart. So let's go. Okay, now to remove an item from the cart, I'm going to create a new function. The function is going to be called remove item from cart. So function remove item from cart. Okay, so my function needs to know which item it will remove from the cart, so it needs to take in the ID as a parameter. Now I'm going to use cart.filter, the filter method, to filter my array. So this takes in a callback function, and here we have a condition. So now this filter here will filter our array cart based on this condition. Alright, the condition will be like this. So the callback will take in the item itself, and our item has a property called ID. So we just need to filter all the items in my cart where the item.id of those items is not this ID here. So I just want to keep all the items from my cart that the ID is not the one I want to remove. Alright. Now I'm just gonna set this to cart. So cart.filter will return a new array. That new array will be set to my cart array. And now whenever I change the cart array, I just need to update cart using my function update cart, so the user can see the changes in the user interface. So I'm gonna go back to the page here. If I add this one here, add this one here, this one here. Now if I hover over this and click, it doesn't get removed because I didn't call the function. So I'm not gonna add an event listener to this element here. I'm just gonna add again a non-click event, just like we did here. So whenever I render the cart items, I'm gonna go here. So this is the image and this is the name. So the image, the name. So this is where I will add an on-click event. So I'm just gonna go and say on-click, and I'm gonna call my function remove item from cart, and this will take in the ID, of course. So if I hit save, now if I go back and then add the items, now I can hover over this, click, and it's been removed, and you can see that the subtotal is also updated. The cart also is updated, etc. So now I can add these, and I can also remove them. Alright, and now it's time to save the user's cart items in the local storage, because now if the user added some items to the cart and refreshes the page, he will lose its items. So let's go to the next step. So now we need to save our cart array to the local storage. We need to save that cart array whenever we update our cart. So whenever we update our cart, which means I'm going to go to the function update cart, and then I'm going to save the cart's save cart to local storage. So here I'm going to use the local storage object, then I'm going to use set item method. This takes in two parameters or arguments, the key and the value. The key, I'm going to choose cart, and then the value, it's going to be the cart itself. Alright, now the cart here, the key, we need to use a key. Why? Because when we get the item, we need to specify the same key to get back our cart. Alright, now for the cart here, I'm not going to save it like an array. So I'm going to go and use JSON.stringify then my cart and then save. Now I'm going to go back to the page. If I add these and I go and open the console, the DevTools, and I go to the storage, then local storage, you can see we have now 3 items here, 3 items. That's good. Now if I refresh the page, we don't have them here, but we still have them in our local storage. Now we just need to get back the cart from the local storage and then render the cart. So that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to go here to the cart and use local storage.getItem, and then this is where I need to specify the key I used before. So I'm going to use cart, and then after getting the item cart from the local storage, I will need to render the cart items using update cart, because update cart is going to call our function render cart items and render subtotal. So I'm going to hit save and go back to my page. Now I have items in my local storage. If I refresh, you can see that we don't get the items here, and I have an error here in the local storage in the console. So it says that the cart.forEach is not a function, which means we have a problem. Why? Why do we have a problem here? Because we used here JSON.stringify to stringify the cart, and now we need to pass back the cart to an array. So that's why I need to use here JSON.parse, and I'm gonna hit save. Let's go back now, and if I refresh, now you can see the items in the cart. Alright, now let's go and do something. Let's go and remove this, delete cart. Now it's like the user is using our app for the first time. If I hit refresh, you can see that I have an error again. If I go to the console, it says that can't access property for each cart is null. Why the cart is null? Because when it runs this code here, it finds out that there is nothing in the local storage, so my cart will be null. But instead, it must be an empty array like before. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to use or an empty array. So now, if nothing's in my local storage, the cart will be an empty array. If there is something in the local storage, it will get that from the local storage, parse it, and then set it to the cart. Now if I hit save, go back to the page, refresh, I don't get any error anymore. Now if I add new or items to the cart, everything's working. I can also remove items. I can go to the top and refresh. You can still see the cart says 4. I can go back to my items. I can refresh, and my items are still there. So now we have reached the end of this tutorial. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you learned new things. So don't forget to subscribe and like the video, and see you in a new tutorial.